Hello, I'm Kristen Oakes-White.
And I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. And this week is National Farm Safety and Health Week. So on today's show, that's what we're highlighting.
Each year, accidents happen on highways involving farm equipment. Unfortunately, many of those accidents result in the loss of life.
Now, this year in Louisiana, there have been multiple accidents involving tractors and farm equipment, even in just the past few months. This week, TWILA's Karl Wiggers introduces us to a farmer who was involved in one of those terrifying incidents.
Most time I've heard of my neighbors getting hit on their tractors and stuff, but you don't think it's ever going to happen to you. You know, you had the flashers on, you had a slow moving sign on, and I feel like I was doing everything right that I can. I had a hay fork on the front and a hay fork on the back. My hay fork was up in the air, and bless her heart, she didn't see me, and she hit me doing probably 65 or 70, and she never saw me.
Sometimes farmers like Buckshot Sims of Franklin Parish have no choice but to get on the highways. He has farmland on the north side of Winsboro as well as the south. Sims says he is very blessed to be alive.
The good Lord was with both of us. It was, to look at the vehicle and what actually happened, it'll scare you, and it makes you want to put your phone down.
There's a person on that thing that you could hurt. I know you could very well hurt yourself. So slow down, get off your phones, and pay attention to what your surroundings are, because those tractors, they want to get off the highway as quickly as they can.
Daniel Stevenson is the director for the central region of the LSU Ag Center. Another precaution they take here at Dean Lee is to avoid highways at major traffic times.
To my right here is Highway 3170. Which is kind of where Vermilion Parish comes to Alexandria. Between 7 and 8, don't get a tractor on that road. Highway 71 runs from LeCount through Alexandria. Between 7 and 8, don't put a tractor on the highway, because that's when they're heavily trafficked.
The main thing is stay off the phones, and that's usually the problem.
You may have noticed there were no photos or videos from the accident in Franklin Parish. The reality is it's still very fresh and very hard to show. But again, everyone walked away from the accident, but the truck that ran into the tractor was absolutely totaled. So you can imagine the damage. And guys, I don't know why this is happening so much lately, but it's terrifying when you think about how much destruction can be caused by, one of our vehicles that we're driving on the roads running into these tractors and combines. It's a lot of damage that can happen.
And it's not just up there, it's not just at harvest, it's all year round when farmers, because I grew up in New Iberia where we had sugarcane trucks on the roads during grinding season, and inadvertently there'd be some kind of crash that someone would run into one of these slow-moving vehicles.
One of the struggles is, farms and towns are starting to mesh, and you see that in cities like Lafayette. New Iberia, all that stretch all the way down to New Iberia is all scattered with neighborhoods and farms. So it's like these vehicles are sharing the road so much more now probably than ever. So it's just going to get worse, especially the more we're on these.
And people are impatient too. Yeah. Thanks for bringing this to our attention. Great story, Karl Wiggers. Well, there were 42 grain entrapments in the United States last year, and 1/3 of them were fatal. That's according to Purdue University's Agricultural Safety and Health Program.
Hearing statistics like that is what makes the danger for farmers very real, which is why Louisiana Farm Bureau offers grain bin safety workshops annually to help prevent the next statistic. From the road, these grain bins look like big metal tubes, as safe as any other large building. But as Grant Parish farmer Ryan Yerby points out,
you've got rotating augers with razor-sharp flighting that go in there that'll carry corn or soybeans up an incline, drop it down into the bin. Inside that bin, there's mechanical spreaders that spread around. Some bins have giant stirrers that move the grain around inside. Plus, there's all kinds of other electrical components that are running 240 or even 480 volts. So there's high electricity, high voltage, high shock areas. If you just find yourself in the wrong place at the wrong time, it could be fatal.
And those are the dangers before you add the most dangerous component, tons of flowing grain.
It takes less than 20 seconds for a 6-foot-tall man to be pulled down to his waist and flowing corn. Once you get down to your waist, you cannot remove yourself. You cannot be pulled out by a human strength.
As you see here, firefighters must use a special grain bin rescue tube and an auger to pull grain out of that tube to rescue someone trapped in grain.
This video is not from an actual entrapment, but from a grain bin safety workshop organized by the Louisiana Farm Bureau and Mississippi Farm Bureau. It's at a workshop like this where Grant Parish first responders learned how to rescue someone from a grain bin. Even with this training, every second counts in a flowing grain entrapment.
You could be looking at anywhere upwards of 45 minutes for someone to respond to give aid. Suffocation can occur in less than 8 minutes.
Yerby says despite growing up around grain bins, this training gave him a new respect for them.
It's no longer, hey, I'm just going to run in there and jump right out. It's I always make sure that I have a spotter. I always make sure that I am tied off. I always make sure I have a harness. Because actually being a part of this training, actually being physically trapped in the grain, and it happens so fast, and it's even slower in the training, and it still happened in seconds. So I have a newfound respect for these big metal tubes on the side of the road because they can be deadly.
Louisiana Farm Bureau will again hold grain bin safety workshops next year in conjunction with Mississippi Farm Bureau. Tentatively, they're scheduled for the last week in February. We've covered these workshops in the past. So to see some of our past coverage about grain bin safety, just head over to our website, twilatv.org, or go to our YouTube channel and you can search grain bins, and amazingly it pops up. And then your husband knows a little bit about that, doesn't he?
A little bit about the very viral video that we had that was, like we talked about this before, it's just iPhone video, but
more than 1 million views, so you know.
Well, I think it became very real for him when he was in there about just how frightening it is.
Oh yeah, whenever you're stuck in there. Now, what's frightening for a lot of folks right now is also harvest, because Ryan Yerby and I also spoke about what most farmers and ranchers have been talking about this year, the drought. Where we were in Colfax, Yerby says he's not received a measurable rain in 90 days. And as for his harvest, well, I'll let him tell you about it.
We got ready to start cutting soybeans, and we went into the field with optimism that it wasn't going to be that bad. And then it turns out it was that bad. What looked like 40 bushel beans turned out to be 6 bushel beans. And it's just been slowly grinding on, but it looks like the heat has taken its toll on us. Even our irrigated crops are not performing the way they should. So we can only attribute the yield loss primarily to the triple-digit temperatures that we experienced for almost a month straight.
So yeah, I'm sure y'all are seeing something similar on Landon's farm as well.
You know, in my head, I guess, not growing up on a grain operation, I thought, well, we haven't had the flooding rains and we haven't had the water issue. It should be a pretty good crop year. And after I talked to you about some farmers having so much trouble, I told Landon that, and he said, well, they didn't cut great.
Yeah.
It just didn't have any rain, and you need the rain for those pods to fill out, which gives you yield. So
yeah, and Monterey had more rain than folks over there in Colfax.
Didn't have a lot. I mean, it always seemed like it would stop right when it got to the
Just their
Mississippi
fields.
River. It would stop right south of Winsboro.
Oh, wow. That's rough. That's rough. And a bad harvest can bring about a lot of mental stress. That's especially true for rice farmers who have also faced low prices for what they grow.
This week, TWILA's Neil Melancon shows us how the struggle on rice farms right now is representative of what many in rural areas are facing.
Despite the heat and the drought, the rice crop in Vermilion Parish is still growing. The same can be said for rice farmer Alan McLean Jr., who says over the past few years of difficult times for the industry, farmers like himself have had to stand tall.
It's always in the back of your mind. I mean, there's always this what if, but I mean, what if, but Mother Nature's the end of it. She's the end game. I mean, you gotta have your faith in everything that it's all going to work out for the way that you want it to work out. It's probably one of the biggest mind games because you're spending all of this money. It just seems like money, is flying out the door, and it's a numbers game, it's a mind game, and it's a life full of stress.
That mental effort takes its toll. Stress on the farm is an increasing problem in Louisiana and the U.S. as a whole. McLean says some days it can be difficult to leave problems in the field.
For me, I got things running around, phones constantly ringing. I'm on the phone, I don't even realize it. I'm just wanting to get in the house so fast sometimes. And I let that stress walk into something else from this morning or this afternoon, and you just need to realize that whenever you get chance, you just have to take that deep breath and be thankful for what you have.
On the left is McLean's barn, and on the right is his house. He says building a literal fence between the two has helped him separate work from home. It's a balancing act, as he says working with family can be both a blessing and a burden.
With family, you go to family functions and you don't have anything to talk about besides work. And that's where it's different, because you're always on the, you feel you're always on a work mode, and you can never just relax and say, hey, how was your day? And some days you might jump in a truck and take off somewhere and you're all together and not a word said, because you're always, you're still in a work mode and you don't know how to come out of a work mode. I know that's hard for me.
Some problems are harder than others to leave behind. Almost 3 years ago, an accident claimed the life of McLean's daughter, Kaylee. As you might imagine, perspectives change in the wake of a tragedy like this.
It's been probably the hardest thing that you have to deal with. Working with family after this tragedy, it was a blessing, because it was very hard on me to get up and go and be able to leave the house for multiple hours at a time, because you just can't get your mind right that you're worried something's going to happen here and you don't worry about what's happening elsewhere.
To get through that loss takes time. McLean says, like stress, grief needs time, connection, and faith.
Prayer does wonders. I mean, that's the biggest thing. You just got to find where you can just calm down and start your day. And then from there, you have to relax, and yeah, you'll say, oh, it just takes time. It takes time to understand and enjoy things and just notice things that you've never been noticing before.
Kaylee loved purple flowers. McLean says he sees them now everywhere. Taking the time to see beauty, even on the side of the road, is vital for him. Pausing and appreciate what life has to offer, even for a moment, can help break the day-to-day stress we all experience.
For some reason, you got purple flowers everywhere in our garden, around our house, and some of them weren't even supposed to be purple. That's what they turned out to be. It's like, okay, it's a place where you can just go and sit on the front porch and just take a deep breath and enjoy the things around you. And it clears your mind for a, let's calm down, let's move forward and enjoy the day.
If you or someone you know is in a mental health crisis, please use the National Suicide Prevention number of 988. We'll put additional resources for mental health specific to farmers in rural areas on our website at twilatv.org. Guys, I can't thank Alan McLean Jr. enough for this story. You know, in addition to the tragic loss of his daughter, being able to just get out of bed in the morning is one thing. To agree to an interview like this when it's so tough for people to just talk about it to a friend, to a counselor, to whomever, is really amazing, and I really appreciate his effort.
It's important to note, though, even if you don't talk to a counselor, talking to somebody, anybody, just getting it off of your chest, I think helps volumes.
It does, and we talked about that, about spending 12 to 15 hours a day on a tractor sometimes. You know, it can wear on anyone, and so having that friend, Alan pointed out, even texting is something that you can do just to reach out and connect to someone. Even if you can't talk right at that moment or they can't, try back, keep reaching out, keep trying that connection, because that is definitely one of the pillars of mental health that keeps everyone sustained and is really a vital role. I mean, it's as vital as food or water, you know, as we're finding out, as fortunately the stigma on mental health resources is being lifted. We're seeing a lot more resources put to that area and effort in that area to help people just stay afloat.
Yeah, and I mean, I even say reach out to your Farm Bureau field man. If you know a field services director, if you know that you need someone to talk to, that they're all around the state, and you know you've got someone that you can reach out to, a fellow board member.
Indeed. Alan said one of the great things was being connected to the young farmers and ranchers when he was a part of it, and having kids around, having family around, and that sort of thing was you know, very helpful for them as well.
It's an important topic. Thank you very much, Neil Melancon.
As we've talked about right here on this show, this year has been a fiery one for our state. In fact, Louisiana has seen more acres of forest land burn than ever before.
As TWILA's Craig Gautreaux shows us, these pine trees represented vital income needed now and into the future for many landowners.
Charred forest land is an all-too-common sight across west-central Louisiana this year. The area saw much of its timber decimated by Hurricanes Laura and Delta in 2020, and paired with this year's historic drought and heat, Louisiana is experiencing its worst wildfire season ever.
They've got 3 years age on them to dry out, and so they are a large source of our ground fuels that are carrying the fire and also impeding the progress of our fire control units.
Weather has and is playing a role in the fires, both in number and intensity, but the human element is just as significant.
We're currently looking at least half of them being arson sets in the area, and probably 50% of them lightning strikes.
Much of the timber will not be salvageable, which is a huge economic hit for an area of Louisiana that is dependent on the timber industry.
If it's a merchantable stand, especially a mature stand that's already grown up into a saw timber size stand, you could be looking at $2,000 to $2,500 an acre worth of loss for landowners.
Unlike row crops, forest landowners do not have the option to insure their timber. These losses could lead to economic hardships for multiple generations.
These folks were counting on this for retirement income, for college funds for kids or grandkids, and now they no longer have this income source, and they now have a burden of the cost of trying to reforest it.
Hutchins says there are some cost-sharing programs that can help offset some of the reforestation costs, and he recommends contacting a local extension office for directions with that process. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
More than 50,000 acres of forest have already burned in the state of Louisiana. Now, keep in mind, the typical Louisiana wildfire season begins in mid-September and runs through Thanksgiving.
Well, the recent wildfires in Louisiana are prompting Louisiana Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry, Dr. Mike Strain, to ask the legislature for more money.
It's money the Department of Agriculture and Forestry badly needs in light of recent fires. Commissioner Strain shared the struggles of containing the wildfires that began plaguing the state in mid-August at the National Association of State Foresters annual meeting in Baton Rouge. Strain says firefighters saw instances where fires burned underground below fire breaks to ignite the wooded areas they were trying to protect. To help with that, Strain says LDAF firefighters and the State Fire Marshal's office need updated equipment to protect life and property.
We have 20 more dozers coming in, but we need another 25 on top of that. A lot of our equipment is just frankly wore out, and now is the time to continue to replace it. My goal is to buy 20 or 25 new dozers each year until we basically replace the fleet, and the other part, the older fleet, will be totally repaired, and then they will be standby units, replacement units. So if a unit goes down in the field, they drop off another dozer and keep going.
USDA Undersecretary for Natural Resources and Environment, Dr. Homer Wilkes, also spoke at the meeting. He pointed out there is funding available through the Inflation Reduction Act that could help with fighting wildfires.
Still to come on TWILA, need help picking the bag of rice you're going to cook tonight? A new label lesson is coming up.
But first, you still have time to attend a Louisiana Ag in the Classroom workshop. We'll have the info right after this.
The 2023 Louisiana Ag in the Classroom workshops are underway, and there's still time to attend a couple that are coming up. These workshops are for teachers to learn new ways to incorporate agriculture into their lesson plans.
Each workshop will include a sample of 3 different lessons, one suited for elementary students, one for middle schoolers, and also a lesson geared toward high school students. Of course, these are abbreviated lessons, and each will include a hands-on component, which is a vital part of these Ag in the Classroom lesson plans. There are 3 more opportunities to attend this valuable workshop.
On Tuesday, October 3rd, there will be a workshop in Oak Grove, Louisiana. On Wednesday, October 11th, there will be a workshop in Abbeville. And on Monday, October 16th, the final workshop will be hosted in Lafayette. They are free to attend, but you must register ahead of time. A meal is included, so the hosts need to make sure that there is enough for everyone, as well as other supplies for the workshop.
Now, the deadlines for each one are 1 week prior to the event, but don't wait. Sign up now. We'll have that link for you to sign up on our website at twilatv.org. Well, September is National Rice Month, and when you head to the grocery store to grab a bag to cook for dinner, you may be overwhelmed by all of the options.
Well, that's the topic of our brand new segment, Label Lessons. Each week we will feature dietitians, food scientists, and other experts to discuss the labels we find on our food when we're in the grocery store. This week, Jennifer Duhon, a dietitian with the LSU Ag Center, helps us understand the nutritional differences in rice varieties in Louisiana.
One thing in the grocery store that you might notice is that there's a lot of options. And when it comes to rice, here in Louisiana, we have a lot of different varieties. We have a rice research station through the LSU Ag Center, and many of those varieties have been developed. But you might wonder when looking at different labels and even different brands, what are we talking about? Of course, you're gonna have your different white varieties. They could be long grain, medium grain, or even short grain. The most common is gonna be long grain here in Louisiana, but then you're also gonna have brown rice. We also have different varieties that have been developed, such as purple rice. And when it comes to those are gonna have a different nutrient profile. Brown rice is typically gonna be higher in certain vitamins, again, those B vitamins, but as well as fiber than your white rice. And when it comes to that purple rice, it's higher in something called anthocyanins. And those are things that are found in like blueberries or grape varieties, and they have a lot of antioxidant properties. So again, lots of variety when it comes to your different Louisiana rice, but it's always something that you can put on your table. So we hope these tips help you the next time you're in the grocery store.
Now, each week we will unpack more of the labels you see on your food packages. And if you have a question about a label or phrase that you've seen on your food, head over to our website at twilatv.org and share it with us. We will try to get your questions answered in a future segment.
Might be doing one about Bluebell ice cream, who knows? But still to come on Twila, what's better than Free Fallin'? Tom Petty fans will soon find out.
We have that in the Twilight Boost up next. Stay with us.
Now it's time for this week's Twilight Boost. A little something to make you smile, brighten your day. And what brightens my day? Tom Petty. I love me some Tom Petty. Well, the Peterson brothers decided to take his 1989 song Free Fallin' and change it around to where it's Wheat Haulin'.
I see what you did there. Well, this group of fifth-generation farmers is creating fun farm content. Watch along as they share the process of a wheat harvest. Now, if you want to watch that entire video, we'll link you over to it on our website at twilatv.org.
Well, Kristen, we're free falling to the end of this show, so be sure to join us next week when we'll take you inside an Ag in the Classroom workshop.
Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org, and be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And you can always find these stories and more on our YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications so you know when we put out new content.
For all of us here at TWILA, thank you for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.